No election music today. You just have to picture in your mind the fife and the drums from Philadelphia, where the Democratic National Convention continues. Runs through Thursday. Our man in Washington is in Philadelphia covering it all week long. That's Chris Castillo, who joins us. I say this morning, but it's actually noon in Philly, so we're interrupting his lunch. There's Chris Castillo. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Dave. Thanks.
Well, last night we heard from former President Bill Clinton, always a good speaker, if not a lengthy speaker. What did we hear last night?
Well, we heard a lot of the personal and the political from the former president. I think, it was really obviously his first speech about his wife as officially the Democratic presidential nominee. And, I've seen a lot of, kind of differing opinions on that speech. I mean, I was in the hall and watched it. I've seen Clinton, as you and I spoke yesterday, I've seen Bill Clinton speak many times. And I would just say I didn't think that speech was as captivating as some speeches that he's given. It had its amusing moments, and I think probably for him served the purpose of humanizing or maybe giving a side to Hillary that many people hadn't heard before, while also talking about how long her career goes back. The kind of work that she did early as a young lawyer. As a child advocate, as an advocate for civil rights and justice. But there was just, for me, there was something missing. It may be because I know how good a speech Clinton can give at times. But again, I think it was a serviceable speech, and maybe he'll grow into the first spouse role, which is, it was obviously historic last night, yesterday afternoon, when Hillary Clinton officially got the Democratic presidential nomination, the first female to get a major party's presidential nomination in the United States. It's also historic, that in every way that Bill Clinton, could become the first spouse. He'd be the first male first spouse in the White House. But the fact that he was a two-term president, obviously makes it even more interesting.
His speech last night was not about I or me. It really was kind of humanizing, as you mentioned, his wife Hillary Clinton. And he spent most of the time talking about that, which is somewhat different than what we've heard from him in the past speeches.
And it's going to be the speech he has to give on the stump for the general election, going in this fall. And I think he will synthesize a lot of what he said last night and perfect it, or at least make it, better. But it's all about his wife. And, clearly he's been speaking for Hillary for a long time, because she ran in '08. And, he was on the stump a lot this year. He came to Oklahoma City twice, I believe.
He did, yes. I think within like a week or two.
So it's not like he doesn't know how to, urge people to vote for his wife. But it is a little bit different now that she's got the nomination. She's, maybe a few months away from being the president of the United States.
You mentioned yesterday Hillary Clinton receiving that roll call vote to officially become the nominee for the Democratic Party. You spoke with members of the Oklahoma delegation. Well, you've spoken with them all week long. What are you hearing?
Well, I think that there's, as we've talked about, there are going to be some, people who came here as Sanders delegates who got involved in politics because of Bernie Sanders, that just aren't going to be able to get there with Hillary Clinton, and may, not remain in the Democrat, may not remain part of the party politics. They'll just go back to, being non-participants and maybe even non-voters this time. It depends. But I think this delegation, even though Sanders got 2 more votes than Clinton did based on Sanders winning the state, I think ultimately most of the delegates, the large majority of the delegation, has no problem whatsoever supporting Hillary Clinton, given the choices.
I think the numbers I saw was 22-20 Sanders over Clinton delegate vote for Oklahoma. Moving ahead to tonight, I believe the lineup looks like Michael Bloomberg, Vice President Joe Biden, Tim Kaine, the moving ahead vice president, as Saul's in the background here, and then Barack Obama headlines tonight. What are you looking forward to tonight, Chris?
I think it's an A-list of speakers, of course, and you have the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States. And I think it'll be for Barack Obama, for the president, it's going to have to be a combination, I think, of countering what was said about him and his administration and Hillary Clinton at the Republican convention last week, but also, countering it with a positive message, of course, because they were relentlessly negative and have been about him, since he became president. But he has to shift toward Hillary. This is a pivot now. We're 3 months, I'm sorry, away from the general election, and it's got to be about her. He can't make the entire speech about him. And the same goes. I think Biden will talk a lot about Tim Kaine, of course, and then this is Kaine's big moment, to introduce himself to the American public, few of whom know who he is, really. I mean, I thought he gave really good first speech when he and Hillary Clinton appeared at a joint appearance on Saturday. But this is a big moment for him. I think to some extent it's going to be overshadowed by the President of the United States, as that's normal, But clearly, it's a big night for him. It's the biggest night for him. It's the biggest speech of his life.
I agree with you. I watched some of that speech Tim Kaine gave, I believe, Saturday in Miami. Pretty good speaker. Barack Obama, though, as far as legacy goes, he'd much rather hand off the baton to Hillary Clinton and keep his party going than see the abrupt change to Donald Trump. So it's a bit of a legacy thing, right?
It is a legacy speech, and I think that's the line he's going to walk tonight. I mean, he has to defend his record, and be positive, and Hillary Clinton has basically made no bones about the fact that she supports almost everything Obama has done, maybe except this latest trade agreement. So, it really is, as some people, as Republicans have said with derision, it would be a third Obama term, and really that's what Hillary Clinton is promising. So.
All right, yesterday when we spoke with you, we had Alicia Keys warming up in the background, and I've heard other people talk about on Twitter how the Democratic National Convention's had a pretty solid lineup of music. Any idea who's on tap for today? I
have not been able to read the schedule. Yeah, as I said yesterday, the huge difference between these parties and their conventions is the musicians keep telling the Republicans to quit playing their songs, and they actually come perform at the Democratic ones. And you have all these. You had Meryl Streep last night, Elizabeth Banks.
Although with Meryl Streep, though, what was she wearing? And by the way, I'm no fashion critic and certainly no person to judge fashion, but she had on the American flag type garb, I believe.
I did not look up to see her.
Okay.
I was just talking. I was, at that point in the night, I'm just like head down writing, and so I actually did not even. She's, however many feet away. I'm fairly close to her, but I was telling somebody this morning, these things are really made for TV, and a lot of the thing, and this, has happened in previous years. People notice things or ask me about things that they saw at the convention that I just did not even notice. It's a loud hall. It's crazy. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and I'm not constantly fixated, on the stage if I'm writing. So it's basically, it's really kind of common for people to ask me, did you see this or did you hear that? I go, I somehow missed that. Even though
it's like an NFL game. It's a completely different experience when you're at the game than what you're watching on TV. In fact, a lot of it is really made for TV.
It is. I mean, you think about how many videos there are these days. I mean, it seemed like, not to exaggerate, but it almost seemed last night like between every speaker there was a video. Which those are obviously made for TV. I don't know how well people can concentrate on those videos when they're playing on monitors in the hall, but I can't really. Unless everybody's quiet, unless it's somebody. Like Jimmy Carter last night, former President Carter last night. Everybody was pretty quiet for that video, but a lot of times I just can't even hear them. People are milling about. People next to me are talking. So it's a made-for-television show. It's made for the millions watching at home and not the 20,000 or so in the arena.
He's Chris Castile chatting with us via Skype from Philadelphia. Now, our producer, Paige Dillard, is from Philadelphia, has family back in Philadelphia. I believe she shared some places for you to perhaps check out for some Philly cheesesteaks. Have you had success in the culinary realm in Philadelphia while you're staying there this week?
I've eaten 3 Philly cheesesteaks so far. I feel like I'm doing my part. I actually had a jerk chicken cheesesteak from a food truck outside the arena, and it was delicious. So, yeah, you can't, they're not kidding about those cheesesteaks. They're good.
Solid analysis, fine reporting there from our Chris Castile. Two offices in Washington. This week he's in Philadelphia. Last week he was in Cleveland for the Republican National Convention. This week covering the Democrat National Convention. Tonight, President Barack Obama speaks sometime after 9 o'clock Oklahoma time, I suspect. Chris, as always, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Glad to do it, Dave.
Yeah, more coverage from Chris can be found online at newsok.com. He'll have stories filed in the Oklahoman, and you can follow him on Twitter, NewsOK Politics.